The sign-in sheet's over here. We can't start the meeting until like 40 signatures, okay? So just make sure you've signed in.
Hello?
Here to get some vote.
We're live.
Do some public
we
relations
are live. We are currently live.
you're gonna live stream?
Yes. Thank you.
How you going?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good. Am I blocked? Oh, you just got it.
Yeah. It's live, but it hasn't started yet.
Okay.
It's just here in the meantime. I think... Yeah. Could you do me a favor, actually? Do you have your laptop with you?
Yeah, I do. Do you want me to look it up?
Yes, please.
I'll bring it over.
Yes. This is the ANUSA Ordinary General Meeting. So ANUSA is the Student Association for Undergraduates, and they're basically just going to be talking about what they've done over the last few weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye-bye.
What's the YouTube?
Just go on YouTube. Woroni.
Yeah, just search YouTube Woroni.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes, but if you could all sign in at the table just over here, that would be fantastic. Thanks very much.
Dan, what's quorum?
40.
40.
Okay. I think this is good.
Yeah, it looks like it. You got the standard delay and everything, so that's alright.
Yeah, I'll let send it.
Cool. Oh, sorry.
Yes, that's one of the challenges.
That's okay.
What position are you running for this year?
Have I closed it? I'm thinking of adding
Why?
I don't
Some people enjoy it, I guess. I don't think anyone enjoys it. I think I know it's
That was
Okay, good afternoon everyone. We've just reached quorum, which is 40 people. We've just reached quorum, meaning that if any of you have to leave for any reason, please flag it with the Deputy Chair, because we can't pass motions without the 40 people here. If you have arrived and haven't yet signed in, please also do that. And if you are inclined to invite your friends to come by, that would be much appreciated as well. So it's now 14 minutes past 1. I declare this meeting open. I'll just introduce myself quickly. I'm Sam, I'm the General Secretary. I'll be chairing the meeting today. It is my constitutional duty to remind everyone of the standing orders for this meeting. There are a few standing order cheat sheets floating around. You can also get your hands on a copy over at the Deputy Chair table over here. Basically, as I said, quorum is 40 minutes. If we lose quorum, we have 5 minutes to regain it, so I might call on you to help me to do that if you don't mind. In terms of moving motions and amendments today, it is now too late to move a motion. You need to give me 5 days notice of doing that. However, if you'd like to move an amendment to a motion, that's completely fine. I just need to receive it in writing. So if you email me or send me a message on Facebook, I can note that as received. Procedural motions are a different story. If you have a procedural motion to move to other business or to adjourn the meeting for whatever reason, please just raise your hand and I'll call on you to come and speak. The same goes for points of order. If you'd like clarification or if you believe you've been misrepresented, please just call out to me and we can work through that. The big no-nos, if you are racist, if you engage in any kind of racial, gender or sexuality-based discrimination or vilification, I will immediately remove you from the meeting. If your conduct is in any other way inappropriate, I will name you. And if you get 3 warnings, you'll be removed. But just to flag, we want to keep this civil and I don't expect we'll have any issues with that. With that said, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay respects to any Indigenous people present and extend that respect to Indigenous elders past and present. We'll now move to apologies. I've received apologies from Eleanor Kay, Emma Henker and Lauren Brain. Item 2 is minutes from the previous meeting. This is the first general meeting of the year, so there are none, which means we'll move straight ahead to the President's report and I'll call on Ben Gill.
Good afternoon. Okay, cool. There we go. Turn back a bit. So welcome to the first OGM, and thank you for coming along. We can't, I guess, do the governance part of our organisation without you. So obviously my report is quite long, so I'll take most of it as read, but highlight a few things. So first of all, even though it seems so long ago, congratulations to the OWIC directors, Kat, Karis, Isaac, Kirsty, and Helena, for pulling off such an amazing week. Obviously, I'm sure all of you enjoyed your experiences, but this is months and months of work and time put into it, so it is a huge commitment, so I definitely thank them for their efforts. A few big items on the agenda this year. So as you would have read in my report, our contract with AUGSync expires in January 2017, and so the associations, ANUSA and PASA, are currently reviewing alternative tools which we may choose to go forward. The vibe at the moment is that we're not looking to continue with AUGSync, though there's still further discussion to be had in that space before we make a final decision. So hopefully more information will be coming out in that space in the coming weeks. The legal service update in 2015 is a really positive note. So February 2016 this year, we had the busiest month we've ever had in the legal service. So we had 71 new cases opened. So that's on average about 3 new cases a day on top of all the existing cases. So it demonstrates that we are providing really valuable service to students. And I'm really glad to see that the engagement amongst the students is increasing. The payment to student representatives, so following on from OGM 3 last year, we have engaged a HR consultant to advise the associations on payment to student representatives, what their workplace relations are with the associations, and all these, I guess, complexities associated with that. It's quite a complex piece of work, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to speak to you via email or in person, so please reach out. Library fines, again, another really positive note for the association. Obviously, most of you would have seen the notice of the proposed $30 library fines at the start of the semester. In consultation with PASA and the ANU Library, we've been able to negotiate that down to $6. So that's a really positive win for the associations and the students. I guess in that space, so the work isn't done. There's still a few issues amongst borrowing behaviour amongst some students, which will need to be addressed throughout the year. ANU OK launched, again, another really positive thing. It was an idea that the association had at the start of last year, had the idea, got the funding, made it happen within 12 months. Seemed like a long time, but for ANU bureaucracy, it's extremely fast. So again, really pleased. There's a motion today about ANU student accommodation proposals from Fender Residence Committee. So I guess any questions that come up from that, I'll be involved in there, having been involved from the council side. And the last thing is the School of Culture, History and Language. For those studying in that school, there's obviously a proposed change management document out for consultation at the moment. The CAP representatives have recently just released a survey to get your feedback. I'd encourage you to check out their Facebook page, fill in the survey, and I guess take part of that consultation process. So with that, I'll move on to questions.
Are there any questions for the President?
Sorry.
Thanks, bud. Don't be shy. With that, could I call on someone to move a motion that the President's report be accepted? Thank you, M. And a seconder, thank you, McCallum. All those in favour? Anyone against? And any abstentions? The President's report is passed. Thank you. I'll now call on the Vice President to deliver her report. Thanks, Clodagh.
Hello everyone, my name's Clodagh and I'm the Vice President this year. I'll take my report as largely read, but we'll flag a few key things to note. So regarding the Brian Kenyon student space, all is running well so far, but we'll be crunching some numbers over the break to decide whether or not it's worth our while to continue on running the secondhand bookstore. So we'll be crunching some numbers and having some discussions as the executive, but if anyone has thoughts or feelings towards the bookshop for or against, please let me know, or any ways that we could improve it. So we'll either be totally revamping it and promoting it hard and trying to do a really good job with it, or we'll just let it die, essentially. So, oh yeah, and also the new website and the change from OrgSync will have a big impact on that as well. So if we're going onto a platform that's not going to support a bookshop very well, then it's probably not worth it. With academic appeals, yeah, this takes up quite a bit of my time, but is quite interesting work and has moved on to things like course structure, issues with assigned assessments, lecture recordings, things like that. So if anyone has any interest in that area, let me know. Yeah, and starting to work on the notification of probation, because that's pretty vague and a lot of students don't really understand that process. So I'll be working with the university on that in coming months to try and make that a bit more transparent. With accommodation bursaries, that's also a really exciting thing that's happening. So that's a priority of Tanya Willis's this year, and looking to revamp the accommodation bursary system to make it more equitable, and well, it hasn't been updated in decades, so it needs a good looking over. Under university committees, I've had a chat to our CAS reps in the last few weeks, and we'd like to look into the university medal restructuring a little bit more, particularly with regard to how the GPA is calculated, including both, like, all your degrees if you're doing multiple degrees, and that's being flagged as problematic for some students. So how hard we go about addressing that with the university will be based on feedback we get from students. So if you feel particularly inclined either way, please let me know. But yeah, we will be discussing with all the different colleges and with Marnie Hughes Warrington in coming weeks. Mental health committee is going fairly slowly at the moment, and unfortunately had a resignation from one of our chairs between writing that and this. So that will be, we're going to go through the recruitment process again, so we'll advertise for that vacancy to be filled in the next day, well, probably today actually. Oh yeah, and a cool thing that we're looking to do in that area this year is the counselling centre resourcing campaign. So as a lot of you probably know, waiting times at the counselling centre are a bit hectic. So we're looking to try and run a massive campaign that will climax at Mental Health Week in October to try and push the university to give more resources to that area as a matter of priority. And I'd also like to acknowledge the work of 4 of our Gen Reps, Dan, Lauren, Cam and Maddie, in the wellbeing space so far this year. They've been fantastic. Other than that, Ethno-Cultural Committee is well underway and has had their elections. I'll be overseeing that. Really exciting to see that all up and running, and that is looking to be a good year in that space.
Are there any questions for the Vice President? Rakib?
So with the bookstore, do you think that it's going to die, or how positive are you feeling about it?
We really need to crunch numbers. So the peak time for the bookstore is the beginning of each semester. So we've now had that peak time. So we're going to sit down and have a look at, what our income was. We've had to do a few refunds. So it's really hard for us to see at the moment, if we're making a profit on it at all. I'm not sure. I think either way, if we're going to keep it, there's a lot of revamping that needs to be done, but that will take a lot of money and a lot of human resources to be able to do that. And as I said, will also be dependent for me on what platform we go with. So at the moment, we use WordPress as our website, which doesn't really cope with the store very well electronically. So all things like that will factor in, but I'll definitely be taking it to the SRC before we make a final call on that. Yeah, but sorry, I'm not sure.
Are there any other questions for Clodagh? With that, could I please have someone move that the Vice President's report be accepted? Thank you, Daniel. This is really awkward. And a seconder. Thank you, Evan. All those in favour? Anyone against? And abstentions? That motion is passed. Thank you, Clodagh. I'll call on the Education Officer to deliver his report. Thanks, James.
Start for one person.
Hello everyone, my name is James Conley, I'm the ANUSA Education Officer. I'll take my report largely as read. There are a number of things though I do want to highlight. With regards to first year camps, I will recommend their continuation into 2017, albeit with some potential changes, including a review as to whether the relationship with Camp Long Beach needs to be continued or whether we can explore other potential venues. With regards to the second item in my executive summary, labelled National Day of Action, National Union of Students did call a National Day of Action for April 13th, which I was given approval by the rest of the executive to work on a potential stunt, but since the SRC has voted to disaccredit from the National Union of Students, the branding will be changed and it will not be a National Day of Action, and it will not be in any form of coordination with the NUS either. And then in terms of the and then with regards to a higher education update, if some of you have seen in The Australian, the Education Minister, Simon Birmingham, has floated a potential 20% cut of funding to universities. The shortfall could potentially be covered by an increase in tuition fees. So currently the federal government covers about, on average, 60% of students' tuition fees, whereas students cover 40%. The effect of a 20% cut to university funding would be an inversion of that 60-40 ratio, which could be potentially a 50% increase in tuition fees. The SRC did vote at the last meeting of the SRC to oppose that, and that will be incorporated into the stunt that I'm running on April 13th and other campaigns that I'll be running throughout the year. But the SRC, the ANU Students Association, does oppose any moves to cut university funding. As well as that, this government has scrapped student startup scholarships and replaced them with student startup loans. Basically, that has the effect of taking what you would have received in terms of an upfront payment and then putting that on your HECS debt. Politics in the pub, I've had preliminary meetings to try and run those in anticipation of the federal election, which we believe will be called for July the 2nd. And then in terms of indulgences, I'd just like to say that I appreciate that there has been rapid changeover with the role of education officer in recent months. However, with my transition into the role has been largely smooth, and for that I'm grateful to Laura Wade, Jock Webb, Laura Campbell and Peter Lee. But in particular, the ANU Students Association does owe a debt of gratitude to Peter Lee for her contribution whilst in the position of Interim Education Officer, and her organisation of the first year camps and initial engagement with the NUS has greatly assisted me in the development of my own projects, and for that, on a personal note, I'm also very grateful.
Are there any questions for the Education Officer? Ricky?
Were there any problems with the Camp Long Beach?
So so the question was, are there any problems that I could see with the venue of Camp Long Beach? Camp Long Beach is a good venue. There are a number of considerations that have to be made in terms of convenience and cost, and both of those work in the favour of Camp Long Beach. From my own observations, I think the facilities are not necessarily up to scratch, and I think that that's something worth exploring. But in terms of cost and convenience, that is something that does weigh heavily in favour of the continuation of our relationship with Camp Long Beach. I'm not making the recommendation that we cease going to Camp Long Beach, but however, in the interest of good management and the running of these events, if we're going to continue running first year camps, I think that in the future it would be prudent for us as an association to, at the very least, explore other potential venues.
Are there any other questions for the Education Officer? With that, could I please have someone move that the Education Officer's report be accepted? Let's go, thank you, Kat. And a seconder, thank you, Max. Beautiful. All those in favour? Anyone against? And abstentions? That report is passed. Thanks very much. I might now call on Cameron Allen, who is acting as Deputy Chair, to take the role of Chair while I give my report, provided this is not subject to any dissension. Awesome. Excellent. Hi, as you'll know, I'm Sam, the General Secretary. I would like to take my report largely as read as well. I just want to flag a couple of things. This meeting is currently being live streamed, and apologies, I should have mentioned that at the start. That's my mistake. Woroni's been really kind and agreed to live stream these meetings to increase the accessibility. I've also proposed that they retain a copy of those meetings, of the live stream on YouTube so that people can access it afterwards. If there are any concerns around that, please let me know. Either send me an email or raise your hand at any point during the meeting. I'm happy to ask them to take it down. But if we have no issues, I think that just acts as an electronic record of the meetings, which I think is important. But let me know if you've got any issues with that. The Electoral Reform Working Group, I propose to start this after SRC 1, basically with the intention of amending the electoral regulations so that this year's ANUSA election doesn't look much like last year's or the year before. The Reform Working Group has been meeting about twice a week for the past 4 or 5 weeks, and so far it's been really good. If anyone is interested in getting involved, please send me a message, an email or Facebook or Slack, however you'd like to communicate. Ideally, I'd like to get as many voices as possible with people who have had experiences, either positive or negative, around elections, particularly looking to run some kind of hybrid online-offline system, which would mean doing away with paper ballots altogether, but not necessarily doing away with campaigning in Union Court. So we want to basically balance the two concerns around harassment and intimidation in Union Court during elections, and also the importance of allowing people opportunity to engage with candidates and to grill them on their policy. So it's about finding that balance, and your input's really valued. So please be in touch. The last thing I'll flag is the Save the Arts campaign, which I'm assisting with. Kat Carrington and Gary Varma are heading that up, along with some really active members of the ANU arts community. There are petitions over here at the front. Basically, we're calling on the ANU to commit to including an alternative theatre and rehearsal space as part of the Union Court redevelopment, noting that this ANU Arts Centre is almost certainly, or at least most likely, going to be knocked down. So I'm really a huge advocate for this campaign, and the SRC endorsed it at our meeting last week. So please come and ask us any questions. Look around for the people in Save the Arts shirts and sign the petition. Thanks very much.
Does anyone... Hello? Does anyone have any questions for the General Secretary? Yes. Okay, so could I ask someone to move a motion to accept the General Secretary's report? Proposed, moved by Marnie Mount, seconded by Maddie Perkins. All those in favour? Anyone against? That motion has passed. Abstentions? Okay, cool. That motion has passed. I will now hand the chair back to Sam.
Big round of applause for the Deputy Chair. Thanks, Cameron. Next item of business is the Treasurer's report, and I'll call on Sean.
Hi everyone, as you may know, I'm Sean. Today I'll be taking my report as mostly read, and I would just like to highlight some of the underlying principles and things I plan on working out throughout the year. As you may have gained from my report, I'm looking mainly at the financial stability of our association through both exploring alternative revenue streams and also implementing financial policies which should have been in place but unfortunately aren't or aren't being followed currently. Since SAF was introduced, our association has relied on most of its income coming from SAF at about 90%. In my opinion, this isn't viable for the future and exposes our association to a lot of risks. So I'm exploring alternative revenue streams and looking closely at how other Australian interstate university associations are going about receiving income. In the short term, I'm focusing on our savings and ensuring that we're getting the maximum interest rate and looking at maximising sponsorship opportunities. Sponsorship's a really good idea for the association. Not only does it bring in money, it also exposes students to great opportunities out there and increases brand awareness. Secondly, I'm looking on ensuring the association's financial governance is adequate. Many of the financial policies we have in place are actually from 2014. A lot of students don't understand that we're following them and they're not really practiced. So I'm working on amending the policies to both reflect what is currently done and also to protect ourselves, and drafting new policies which should be in place but aren't, such as a cash management policy and a writing off bad debt policy. If anyone would like to help with any of my plans for the year, please get in touch, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me now.
Are there any questions for the Treasurer? We'll go with Evan.
Can you elaborate on the manner of looking outside
Yeah, so currently I'm just looking at what Sydney University, Melbourne University and Brisbane University, what their student associations are doing. They all rely on about 40% of their income coming from SAF, and then have multiple different revenue streams, such as Sydney University's got an art collection, they've got property, they've got stock, they've got, as I said, they've got residential communities they're running. So just looking at what we can do with our savings and what would be the best option going forward.
Ben Crewman. If you want to ask a question now, you can. Otherwise, you have to move. You have to speak to the motion later this afternoon. So best to ask the question now. Yeah.
What's the plan for budget items for which it's already clear won't be expended? For example, the NUS item.
Yeah, so throughout the year, we'll look at budget line items, and if we see there is excess money, obviously some line items will go over the money. So through a general meeting, we can pass a motion to move money across from line items. If the money doesn't get spent, it'll be put in the surplus. A good example is last year when GAC was needed extra money and the motion was passed for the extra 50,000, that came from the previous year's GAC surplus, which was rolled over across.
James?
We can't, but we can receive donations. Sydney Uni's received 2.5 million in art donations.
So, strategic plan is to have art.
We're looking at all options currently.
Were there any other questions for the Treasurer? Could I have someone move that the Treasurer's report be accepted? Thank you, James. And a seconder, thank you, Wahid. All those in favour? Anyone against? And abstentions? The Treasurer's report is passed. Thank you. I'll now call on the Social Officer to deliver her report.
Hi everyone, so first of all, sorry for being late today, I wasn't well this morning. I'm going to take my report largely as read, but I'll just highlight a few key points. So O Week was overall, based on feedback, a success. A massive thank you to everyone involved, including directors, volunteer coordinators, volunteers, BKSS staff and all the SRC. Event turnout, as said in my report, was quite good. We have noted down those numbers and will be included in next year's handover for better planning. For the budget, so I presented some estimated numbers of everything that we've reconciled at that point at SRC1 and didn't quite see a point in presenting again estimated numbers at OGM1 as we are still in the process of reconciling those numbers. But never fear, nothing drastic has happened and we will present them as soon as possible. For social committee, so we, like I said, last meeting had our first meeting, and the first event that the social committee will be helping out at will be a Eurovision, which is a collaboration event between 5 clubs and societies as well as ANUSA. So we will be donating our manpower from social committee and financial support if needed. For GAC, we have been having regular meetings. We will have another meeting tonight at 5 p.m. in the ANUSA or Pasa Boardroom to be finalised soon. You will receive an email if you are registered on OrgSync. Please feel free to turn up, especially if you have a budget request that is being considered by the committee at this particular meeting. The events guide is underway. Like said in the report, will be presented at SRC3 along with the GAC handbook. Club and Societies Collaborations project is a project that I'm working on this year, which is something new. So that is twofold. So first of all, will be a networking event per term between the executives of club and societies for an opportunity for them to get to know each other and possibly plan future collaboration events together. The second part is that we will be helping club and societies collaborate on a larger, wide-scale event per term. So this term our project is a Eurovision, which will be on April the 1st and will be held here. The Facebook event has launched, so please go and register to perform if you haven't already or to help out. Sorry, for social committee, if you still want to join, you can. Please either fill out the form on the website or email me directly. Sex and Consent Week, as said in the report, there was a preliminary meeting. A call for directors will be out right after the mid-semester break, so please look out for that and apply if you are interested. If you are interested in being involved on the advisory committee meetings, those will be open and advertised to everybody, so please keep an eye out. Any questions?
Ricky.
What are the problems that you see about the platform do you think that they
Okay, yes, Rakib's question was, what do you perceive to be the problems to do with GAC and how confident that you will solve them this year? So we published we published a survey out to the greater community about the efficiency of GAC and in general people's feelings about GAC, and the majority of the things were efficiency and the turnaround rate. There were also other questions which we also addressed in policy review, which we will be presenting at SRC3. So those just include like event caps or whether they're necessary, and what we found was the general dissatisfaction with GAC was that sometimes money was taking months to get back into their account and students were being out of pocket for too long. So we had a review meeting with Sean, myself, Rakib, and Kat Martin, the campus life officer, and we discussed a variety of methods that we can address this with, and I am quite confident with my robust committee of 10 people, we will be able to overcome those.
Are there any other questions? Rakib?
Yes.
So I guess the gap, there's roughly 12 people on that, right? I think one of them was the ANUSA OGM.
Yeah. So as far as I so Rakib says there's supposed to be one ANU union nominated person on GAC, or do you know what's happening with that? So as far as I know, Kat Martin and I tried to reach out to them in December, I believe, and we didn't really get a reply, but we will be like checking whether we sent it to the right email address, all those kind of things, and especially since elections are now over, hopefully that will be a much more speedy process.
I might just quickly, on a point of clarification, I also emailed the ANU union in February, but haven't yet heard back.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, Evan's question was, are you still waiting for a reply? Yes, we are. Yep, James. That will be my next vote result. I will take that on point. Thanks, James.
Are there any other questions for the social officer? Could I please have someone move that the social officer's report be accepted? Thank you. Amanda. And a seconder. Thank you, Supriya. All those in favour? And anyone against? Abstentions? Excellent. The social officer report is passed.
Yay, thanks guys.
If anyone has just arrived, would they mind please signing in down at the table here? That would be great. The next item on the agenda are discussion items and motions on notice. The first motion I have received is moved by the Treasurer Sean McDonald and seconded by President Ben Gill. The motion is that the 2016 budget be accepted. Sean has 4 minutes to speak to the motion.
Hello again. I'd just like to speak to the motion and give some background information about how the budget was developed and how some of the line items work. So as a general rule, we looked at what was done in 2015 and how much money was spent for each line item. If we didn't expect costs to increase, that money was just rolled over and CPI of 3% was accounted for. Where possible, we've tried to make savings. And in our SAF bid, which is available on the website, we accounted for revenue which wasn't done in previous years, and this meant in some line items such as O Week we received a $60,000 deduction in SAF, but we made up for that in other revenues such as ticket sales and sponsorship. The 2016 expenses, as you'll see, are scheduled to increase by roughly $200,000. This is once again due to us running a lot of new initiatives, which are all outlined in the SAF bid. Just to name a few, we have things such as the Day on the Green, new staffing members, the Ethnoculture Committee, a Clubs and Society networking event, the school outreach program, and many more. Due to the nature of our association, at this current state, we've anticipated a profit of about $148,000. There is a large chance this could change. As you all know, often money is needed throughout the year and new initiatives and events will come up which we'll decide to support, or the SRC could vote on motions that will require money. When this does eventuate, we'll have to pass a motion that line items are moved and money is put through. As highlighted in my report earlier, I've also mentioned that the association is looking towards securing its financial future, and so the increase in profit also represents the hard work and desire we've put in place to increase alternative revenue. So things such as bank interest, sponsorship money and ticket sales have all increased in the budget compared to previous years.
So what we do now for a motion, there isn't an opportunity to ask questions, but you are able to speak to the motion, which means either speaking for or against passing the budget. Sean then has a right of reply at the end, at which point he can answer any questions that you raise. If anyone would like to speak to the motion, it's 2 minutes. But before that, I'll call on Ben Gill to second the motion. He waived his speaking right, so we'll move straight to, would anyone like to speak to the motion? Yes, that is possible. Unless there is anyone who would like to speak, I'll just move straight to the vote. There's no need for the procedural motion. In that case, the motion once again is that the 2016 budget be accepted. I'll call on a show of hands. All those in favour? Anyone against? And any abstentions? Unless anyone has read that differently, that motion is passed unanimously. Great, thanks. The next item on the agenda, and also the second last, is a motion moved by Rakib Buyan and seconded by Albert Pitajo. The motion is that the ANU Students Association endorse the Fenner Residence Committee's campaign against proposed student accommodation changes, calling on the University Council to reconsider removing campus residential hall and college options. Rakib is that a procedural? That's fine. Once we get to the seconder, I'll ask someone else to second the motion in his place. Thank you. We'll call on Rakib, who has 4 minutes to speak to the motion. Sorry, point of order. Oh, I think you're totally right. Thank you very much. It is 3 minutes. Noted, and apologies.
Alright, so I guess in some sense it seems this motion is a waste of time. The university seems to have made up its mind on moving Fenner Hall on campus and removing all other options for off-campus student accommodation. It seems that the university is making the most economical decision that it's being forced to make. Fenner Residence Committee and Fenner residents are campaigning to ask questions of the university on, I guess, why this decision has been made and, you know, what are the implications. There's a few statements from the president of the Residence Committee, Sean Ding, including the agenda, and some from other Fenner residents and their thoughts on the issue. But I guess my point of view is that maybe I'm a pessimist, but if this campaign is going to be unsuccessful, the least that the university can do is, I guess, take the time to properly understand what Fenner residents mean when they say that the identity and culture of the hall is shaped by the off-campus environment. And what Fenner residents usually mean is that having access to this off-campus environment situated in Braddon means that we can live in the happy middle of student accommodation, of living in a residential hall and all the benefits that come with that, but also easier access to the wider Canberra community, including places of employment, etc. You know, I'm not sure how effective a transition plan of Fenner Hall to SA5 on campus will be if the university can't understand this point. This is where I hope ANUSA can come in, and I guess also why I think the wider student body should care about this issue is that, one, it raises a number of questions about what the university is doing in terms of the Union Court Road Development Plan and the principles and consultation that's going on there. So it seems that the principle behind that is that the university wants to see a campus where all the students live on campus and spend most of their time on campus rather than, you know, taking access to the wider Canberra community and living in, I guess, Canberra. And then I guess also questions of cost, where it seems either way, regardless of whether Fenner Hall remains off campus or on campus, the cost of one of the cheapest student accommodations will raise to $260, pricing a lot of students out of accessing a new student accommodation, which I guess also has implications for where the university is heading. I think that is all I have to say.
Thanks, Rakib. Yeah, please. In Albert's absence, I will need someone to second that motion. I think Eben is comfortable seconding it. Would you like to speak? Fantastic. Eben will not be speaking to the motion. That means it's open to anyone here to speak to the motion. As discussed, you've got 2 minutes to speak either for or against it, completely up to you. And the floor is yours. So would anyone like to speak to that motion? Ben. Thanks, Ben.
Hi everyone, so I guess I just thought I'd speak. So I've been involved quite heavily on the ANU side, supporting the IHC with the recently announced changes. I guess I would like to clarify whether the Fenner Residence Committee is against all the proposed student changes. So some of the proposed changes to student accommodation have been received positively by some residents in terms of the improved experience of their halls, and equating the pastoral care assistants in New Lodge to have the same amount of SRs as other Daly Road colleges. So not all the proposed student accommodation proposals are, I guess, rejected by the student community, though I do accept the concerns with Fenner, and I guess I have been working closely with Sean on that area, and I'm happy to take this feedback up to council and those other committees. So I guess in that I'm proposing an amendment, if I can bring it up, whether Rakib chooses to accept it, to change it to that the ANU Students Association endorse the Fenner Residents Committee calling on the University Council to reconsider removing off-campus residential hall and college options.
As that's an amendment, I'll need it in writing, but if you can send me... Yep, that's fine. So, my understanding is that the amendment cuts out against proposed student accommodation changes, which means the new motion would read that the ANU Students Association endorse the Fenner Residents Committee's campaign calling on the University Council to reconsider removing residential hall and college options. I'll just be a moment.
No.
So the agenda has includes, after the word campaign, against proposed student accommodation changes, and the amendment is to remove those words so that ANUSA would not be endorsing a campaign against proposed residential accommodation changes, but just endorsing a campaign calling on the University Council to reconsider removing off-campus residential hall and college options. I'll just note quickly that that amendment has been moved by Ben Gill. Just a moment. So I will need a seconder for that amendment, and it looks like James Connolly is willing to second that. If that is a friendly amendment, there will be no need to vote on that, is my understanding. But that's up to Rakib to decide whether he would like to accept that amendment or whether we can put it to a vote. It's entirely up to you. Yep, not a problem. So the amendment is that that we change the motion to read that the ANU Students Association endorse the Fenner Residents Committee's campaign calling on the University Council to reconsider removing campus, residential hall and college options. It's moved by Ben Gill and seconded by James Connolly. Anyone is welcome to speak to the amendment, either for or against. So I'll open the floor up to anyone who would like to speak to that amendment. If not, we'll just vote on that amendment. All those in favour by show of hands. Anyone against the amendment? And any abstentions? Unless I'm mistaken, that amendment is moved unanimously, which means that we now move to a vote on the principal motion, which now reads once again that the ANU Students Association endorse. Point of clarification, order. In regards to the original motion. I opened it up, I heard one. Were there any other people who would like to speak to the principal motion? James would like to speak to the principal motion. I'm happy to do that. Yep, so ordinarily what would happen, people have to speak to a motion, which means either for or against. If anyone would like to ask questions, I'm happy to suspend standing orders to allow that to happen. Could I just get an indication if anyone would like to ask a question rather than speak to the motion? Failing James, with that, I move that standing orders be suspended to allow James to ask a question. All those in favour? That's true. This is getting a little bit silly. Could I have someone move that standing orders be suspended to allow a question? Thank you, Ben. There's no need for a seconder for a procedural motion. All those in favour? Anyone against? And abstentions? That motion is passed. Standing orders are suspended. James, you can ask a question.
I was going to ask Rakib, while I've been at ANU, I've heard over 3 cars have been torched from the Fenner car park. There's been an attempt to build a fence that was scuttled by the ACT government and was moving them as assaults on them. Is the current location for Fenner a safe place for Fenner students?
So the question was to the effect that is Fenner Hall a safe place for students, with some background about why it may not be. Rakib is welcome to answer the question. Just noting that suspending orders are standard, so there are no minutes taken. Apologies, Rakib. I might interrupt. I'm not sure how fruitful this conversation is without it being heard. So if there are no objections, I might resume standing orders at this point and allow the two of you to continue that discussion afterwards. That brings us to the principal motion that we have to move, and then this meeting is just about finished. Unless Eben has a point of... So I resume standing orders, but you're welcome to bring that up afterwards. Thanks, Evan. The motion is that the ANU Students Association endorse the Fenner Residence Committee's campaign calling on the University Council to reconsider moving campus residential hall and college options. We'll go by show of hands. All those in favour of that motion? Anyone against? Any abstentions? James, would you like that abstention noted? Thanks, James. I'll just need you to call out your names. Amanda, abstention. Supriya, abstention. And were there any others? Max, abstention. Oh, good. With that, the motion is passed. Thanks very much. Just clarifying that the Deputy Chair noted those abstentions. What a guy. We'll proceed to item 5, which is other business. This is an occasion for you to ask questions generally or otherwise to present a motion that will appear on the agenda for OGM 2. If anyone has any questions, please come up and grab the mic, or if they would like to raise any discussion issues, that's the time to do it now. Amazing. With that, I call this meeting closed and note that the next general meeting of the ANU Students Association is scheduled to be on Tuesday, 3 May 2016 at 1 p.m, location to be confirmed. Meeting closed at 1:59 p.m. Thanks very much, everyone.